The side here for a second. I've got this ice container here. Now, the tricky part is to take this loin, this section right here, out. Same over here. And all animals, the thing you always have to remember is that their spines are not straight. Right? They kind of move, those kind of things. So it's not just a straight cut down, because if you did just a straight cut down, you're actually going to cut into the loin. So we don't want to do that. First thing we want to do then is go after these first two big ribs here, one at a time. Don't try to do them both, okay? So all we're going to do is take our knife and run right up next to it. Just with the tip of the knife too. I'm not going to go in far, because if I do, I'm going to cut into that loin, and I don't want to do that, okay? So we're just going to take and run our knife down like so. Okay. That's all I'm doing. And then when I get onto this side, again, I want to keep intact as much of that loin. All I want to do is free up the rib bone, okay, without cutting into the loin. We want to keep that as free of any nicks or anything like that whatsoever. Okay, so we have our first bone out. Alright, so now we have our second bone that we need to go after, and it's the same thing. Just the tip of my knife right up against that rib bone. And again, I don't want to, I have to be very careful, because if I'm not, I'm going to cut into that loin, and we don't want to do that. Okay? So we're just going to come down like so. And free up that rib bone. Okay, so now we have these short ribs right here. Okay, and right up against here. Okay. So now I can come back over on this side and get my knife working right up on, right next to him. Okay. It's just a piece of the rib. Just got a feel for him. And again, I'm not going to go down all the way to the spine, okay? Just the top part of it, okay? Because if I go all the way down, I'll actually cut right into that one. And we don't want to do that. So we're just going to keep working our way a little bit at a time, and it's just the tip of my knife. Just like so. Now, veal is an important piece of meat for the state of Wisconsin. Why is that? Does anybody want to shout out the answer? Anybody want to know? Think they know what it is?
Cheese production.
Say it loud.
Cheese production.
Right, because we're the dairy state. Okay? And if you are producing milk, what do you have to produce? Calves. Okay? You have to have the supply of calves being brought into the world in order for the cows to produce milk. Okay, so that's how come we have young animals that have to be taken out of the milk production. Otherwise, you would have this over influx of cows who are producing dairy. Okay, so you can't get away from not having calves. Now, what there is a lot of conversation about is how the animals are fed and how they're stored, free range versus the milk fed. And again, that comes back to your own personal views, I guess, and personal taste on this. Okay, I've seen good veal producers, and they're not, inhumane in any way. And I've seen other farmers and agriculture people that are. So it really is a decision you have to decide on where you buy your meats from. Okay. All right, on this side, same principles we did on the other. This is our spine here. We're going to run our knife, just the tip, right up against these bones. Okay. Same thing, right up against them. Do not try to take too much at a time. Just like so. Okay, now what happens here is this little T is right here. See that? That means there's like a T in the bottom. Okay, and that runs up. So now there's like a wall of bone right there that you have to kind of work your knife around to get that whole loin off of there. Okay, so what I like to do is come down it as much as I can on one side, very carefully.
Now, Chef, is there a age limit for veal to be considered veal?
Right. It's over a certain age. And that really is when the animal starts to take on more weight and gets larger in size, obviously. Okay, so if you look in there, actually, it'll give you what you want to know there. Okay, so. And then tell us what you find there, AJ.
When I find it, Chef.
Alright, so we're slowly peeling away here. And what we end up left are those bones. And we'll talk about how to clean those up as well. And now we have our loin. This should start to look familiar to you in regards to a New York strip. And what we're going to do is we're going to separate the loin right out of there. You see this section of fat right here? We're going to separate this right out of there. Okay? So all we do is peel away using the tip of our knife a little bit without cutting into that loin. That section. And what can we do with all this trim, all this veal trim? What can we do with it all? Any ideas?
Render it.
Yeah, you can render the fat.
Okay, you can render the fat, but what about the meat?
Grind it.
To do what with? Sausage. Okay. Alright, so we're going to keep peeling this back. Keep peeling it back. This would be the cap that you would see normally. The fat, what's different about this fat than what you would see on beef?
So it'll be.
What do you notice about this fat?
It's a different color.
It's a different color, right?
And then not as much fat either.
Right, not as much fat because the animal's younger, okay, and hasn't had time to gain a whole lot of weight, okay. And veal fat is generally very, very white. Okay. Okay, so now we need to get all this, this silver skin and whatnot off. So we don't want to try and take huge sections. Take small sections at a time off so we don't dig into that meat. Okay. Just a little bit at a time. Again, just small sections. Don't try to take too much. Notice how I pull and I come back. Just keep working that knife down just like so. If you try to take too much, you'll dig into that loin, and you don't want to do that. Take just a little bit at a time.
Chef, I found basically it says for quality grade description, it says the following descriptions apply to beef carcasses from animals of approximately 9 to 30 months of age.
Okay.
And it says that the U.S. Department of Agriculture will designate this animal to be a maturity in its official grading standards. So then when you go back over here to veal, it says veal is A, B is calf. So I'm kind of confused here. Are they saying that veal is considered 30 months for between 9 and 30?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing you should understand, there's another kind of veal that you don't see very much on the market, probably because it would really have some people in an uproar. But it's called bob veal, and it's bob veal, and it's very young, really young.
So now this veal is probably grass fed a little bit there, or is it just strictly milk?
This is Provini veal, so it's milk-fed veal.
Okay.
Okay.
And I've always had a question about the dye that they use for stamping and marking and stuff like that. That's just food grade dye, right?
That's all it is. It's
But
food grade dye.
Will that? I mean, if you don't get it all off and you cook that, will that like blemish the meat or anything like that, or?
No,
I mean,
but
can you tell?
usually it's located on somewhere on the animal, though, where
It would be cut off.
it would be trimmed off anyways.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be a problem. I've yet to see where it's stamped on an open piece of meat.
Okay.
Okay. But again, you notice as I'm doing this too, I want to make sure you guys are aware. I'm not taking a lot off at a time. See, I'm using just small strips. Okay, because you don't want to lose. As I started this out with, veal is very expensive, and so you want to handle it so that you're not losing a lot of meat. Okay. Come down here, and I'm going to show you something down here that might help you to see this. As I was saying earlier about it being like the strip loin. This here is the nerve end. So when you cut New York steaks, you get down to here, you see those nerve ends that run through there. That's what that is. Okay. So this would be your same as your New York steaks. You cut down just like so. Okay. Now we still have some trim work on the backside. Okay. We want to make sure that there's no cartilage. This here has a piece of cartilage right there. We don't want that in there. We're going to put it with those bones. Okay. We want to feel on the backside here. Just like so. See, there's a piece of cartilage here. We don't want to have any of that cartilage to end up in our food, okay? Back. And if you did a good job of getting this off the bone, you're probably going to see a little bit of that cartilage underneath there. Okay, because that means you got really close to the bone. That's what you wanted to do. Okay. Again, beat it up like so. All right, so we've got most of our loin trim. What we're going to do is we'll come back to this later on. I've got some plastic laid out here. We're going to take this, we're going to lay it in plastic just like so. Get it nice and tight. Scrunch it together as tight as I can. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the freezer for just a little bit. For about an hour or so. So it kind of holds its shape so that when we go to cut our medallions, they're going to be nice and thick and they're not going to be flat. Okay? Alright, so